Boys and girls, not sure how to start this video, but by the title and the thumbnail, which I didn't actually make, I should have made those before I started recording this, but nevertheless, I'm going to talk about what is information security, just the basic, the first lesson. And so without further ado, let's get started by learning the first definition or whatever. It's going to be mostly theory, so don't expect much fun stuff here. And I probably shouldn't have said that because now you wouldn't watch the video. So stay until the end so I can get more watch time. Security, basically from the Google definition, means the state of being free from danger or threat. So basically protection of stuff as my college defined it. When we talk about information security, there's no proper definition, but basically, as the name suggests, it's self-explanatory. It's an area where that deals with the security of information. So you can imagine your password, your email, etc. for security of your information. And the second thing I need to mention are some security norms, and these are the three I'm going to mention. The first one is I think this is the year in which it was developed, so 2005. It was a standard for introducing an information security management system. Also, the second one, 2007, I suppose, is a set of recommendations of the implementation of security controls. And the third one in 2008 is Information Security Risk Management Standard. So, other basic concepts in information security, and here is where it gets funnier, more interesting. And the three most basic concepts are prevention. In information security, of course, we want to, as we are developing the software, we definitely want to secure the information of our users and our data as well. And I don't know what I meant by our data, but whatever. And prevention, what it means is we want to prevent damage to your software by making it more secure. We want to prevent anything from happening when we are developing, from the point where we are developing the software. Discovery means taking measures that enable the detection of damage to the asset. So we don't usually want this to happen. We don't want to our software to be I lost my train of thought. So usually, not usually, but all the time, we don't want our software to be damaged or our information leaked. But sometimes, unfortunately, it happens, and this is when we need to discover. This is the second term, discovery. We need to discover what's the problem and, of course, fix it so no further leakage of software or whatever the problem was, to basically prevent the problem from further happening, if that's even a word. So reaction, this is basically the reaction part. I already kind of explained this. Reaction is taking measures that allow recovery of funds or repair or of damages. Next thing is, what is CIA triad? It's an acronym, so I'm probably sure full stop here. And maybe even not, but let's leave it there. By the way, notes into the description down below. And CI doesn't stand for what you may think it stands for, but it stands for C for confidentially, I for integrity, A for availability. Confidentially, of course, when we're talking about information security, we're talking about something secret or confidential, private. So confidentially is the state of keeping or being kept secret or private, basically preventing unauthorized information disclosed. And here I have a quick note on something interesting. I've just discovered that private and secret is not the same. Private is when we know information exists, but we don't know that information or the contents, or I should say, of the information. And secret is different. And how it's different? It's different because it's secret. We don't know it even exists. It's secret, as I've written here. So, should I explain more about this preventing unauthorized information disclosed? No, that's pretty straightforward. So, integrity. What is integrity? Usually, in real life, when we're talking about integrity, we're talking about if, let's say, some friend of yours says, "Hey, I will do this in the future," or just basically makes a promise and doesn't, and if he doesn't do that, then we say he doesn't have integrity. And basically, it's maybe slightly different in information security, and the definition is basically preventing unauthorized alteration of information. So if, let's say, you don't basically want your password to be changed by the software you're using and not by yourself, and if the software changes your password, that's what's called unauthorized alteration of information. That's why this concept is worth knowing, or you must know in information security. Availability. So availability is basically preventing unauthorized retention of information or research sources. So this one interesting because availability usually doesn't refer to something like this, preventing retention of information, but you can imagine availability being something like, let's see, like usually in those big companies, and probably in every company as far as I know, there are more passwords, or every password that you have set in your app, in any kind of web app, is actually kept in their data. So they have retention of your information, or all of your passwords from the first one, and if you have changed it later, they have all the passwords stored in their database. So also, what availability means, this one is more. This one I can relate more to, is every time I need some resource, I should get it. It shouldn't be taken, and there shouldn't be delays. So if I click on this button, I should immediately get this window, and that's a cool animation. And if there is a delay, I wouldn't be able to get to my second action, which is clicking, let's say, this switch. Responsibility. By the way, comment down below if you have reached this point to the video. Just say hi. And responsibility, just a quick mention, like a shout out here. Responsibility means that users have to be responsible for their own actions. And I'll just leave it there. Principles. So a quick recap. I've mentioned the CI triad, and what it stands for: confidentiality, integrity, availability. Integrity means don't change you cannot change my information. Availability means it shouldn't have delays or prevent keeping my passwords, I guess. And confidential means it should be secure. Basic concepts are prevention, discovery, and reaction. And that's pretty much all for now. Let's keep going with the principles of security. And when we're talking about security or implement it in our app, we should focus on what kind of security to focus on users, on the app, or which is more important to basically prioritize the security. And my friends are just starting to find. So probably that's not too loud because my microphone is kind of far away from not too far away. But so the second principle is man-machine level. So there's basically more layers in which you can add this security. And also this once again this principle is about prioritizing. So in which layer you should ask yourself of the computer system should be set up a security mechanism. Also, about simplicity, it's a trade-off. If you put on a lot of security, the app gets a lot of context and a lot of conflicts, a lot of distance, it takes more time. This one, just not going to talk about. It's so simple. I mean, it's simplicity. It's centralized or decentralized security. I don't know what to really talk about. This one is so plain. And bottom layer, hardwiring the attacker from gaining access to the layer under the protection mechanism. This one, not much to talk about as well, and these are the more important ones, if you will. And basically they're pretty much very similar to one another. You might mix them up, but if you listen carefully now what I'm about to tell you, you're not going to mix them up. So authentication is basically the process of identifying users and validating who they claim to be. So what is this process of identifying users? So the process of identifying user is basically what it means or what it refers to is just nowadays every web app would have authentication built in, authentication integrated is what I mean. So if you have a login page, or first of all where you can register and then log in. So that's the process of identifying users. You may authenticate yourself through Google account or manually. When I say manually, I mean use just your email and your password. This is the slow way, and I don't usually do it because I'm being effective here or trying to be effective. And validating who they claim to be. This one I'm not really sure of. I mean, how can you validate? Yeah, probably some Bitcoin app, for example, if you need some, I don't know, some code or whatever from the state. So basically, the app is validating who you claim to be. And this is the most common, basically, most common way to authenticate identity is a password. Nowadays, there are, of course, you can log in with Google. So if you have a Google account, you can, of course, log in my app. Let's say, and you really can have an app made in Google, not in Google, but you can log in my app with using your Google account. So If the username matches the password credential, it means the identity is valid and the system grants access to the user. So there is authentication. So let's not mess it up here with what is authentication or authorization. Sorry, I already messed it up. Authorization happens after a user's identity has been successfully authenticated. So authorization is basically something you do after you've successfully authenticated yourself. And authorization is, in these apps where you are logged in, you don't have access to some access rights to resources. Like in a let's say Google Classroom, and by the way, that's an app for teachers and students, where of course teachers give assignments to students and students study, have the materials there, etc. And students wouldn't be able to like change the assignments, etc. So they would have they would say they didn't they can't access rights to resources. That's what this means. And basically, that's all I have to talk about for now. And I should probably mention that just hit the subscribe button. So, little late, but hey, subscribe.